You are live. Yeah. Yeah, we are live now. Hello, everyone. Good morning or afternoon or evening to everyone. Welcome to our community's first session. Today we have a fantastic topic lined up that dwells into the world of API automation, an essential aspect of modern software development. As well as we all know, the landscape of API automation tools has been evolving rapidly. It is presenting both opportunities and challenges to the developers. In our session today, we are privileged to have with us an expert who will shed light on the how to reimagine this API automation with a tool called RevoMan. But before we dwell into the details, let me introduce you to our speaker, Gopal. Our speaker Gopal is currently serving as a lead software engineer at Salesforce, and he is deeply involved in scaling backend systems for Revenue Cloud. With a passion for development and keen interest in mentoring and influencing the developer community, Gopal brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to our session today. Beyond his role at Salesforce, Gopal is also a prolific contributor to the tech world. He shares his insights and expertise through his posts, international talks, social media, and open source collaborations. His commitment to continuous learning and sharing is truly inspiring. Now, let us turn our attention to the heart of today's discussion. Gopal will be introducing us to RevoMan, an open source template driven API automation tool designed specifically for JVM environments. This tool promises to change the way we approach API automation, addressing common points and pitfalls faced by developers. Throughout this session, Gopal will walk us through the features and benefits of RevoMan, illustrating how it strikes a balance between flexibility and ease of use. He will highlight how this tool can significantly improve the accuracy and transparency of automation while minimizing the cognitive complexity, ultimately enhancing your team's productivity. Without further ado, please join me welcoming Gopal in the virtual stage. During the talk, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in comments. I will take them to the speaker. Gopal, stage is yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Chaitanya. Thanks for that kind introduction. And I hope you can see my slide deck being presented.
Yes.
Thanks. Thanks. Hi, everyone. So today we're going to talk about an exciting tool called RevoMan. And this started as a hackathon at Salesforce, and now it's a production tool which is guarding a lot of production APIs at Salesforce. So without further ado, let me introduce again. My introduction is already done. The slide is like I can skip it. But just two more things, like this is my X handle. I mean, my current X handle. And then this is my website where you would find more of my talks. And then there are handles where you can reach me out. Feel free to DM me if you want to try out this tool after the end of this talk or you have more doubts. I would love to interact. And to start with, Salesforce, of course, is an API-first company, and there's so many API-first companies out there. API-first has been a buzzword for very long today, and almost all the services are exposed as APIs. And APIs are something which are iteratively developed, and they have versioning and stuff. And it's important that we guard our APIs because API documentation is first thing which gets outdated before everything else. So it's important there is something that gets tied to your API so that it doesn't break or it behaves as expected. And that's what we call API automation. And it's very important that we left shift this API automation, as in it's not like not a thing that you do towards the end, but you should have your API from your version 1. You should have that automation such that as you evolve, this automation evolves along with it, or else probably shows up a red flag if there is any time there's a break in this behavior, so that you automation acts like your first client for your API, and then that gives an early feedback so that your clients won't suffer later, as in the API clients. So the talk, although says automation, it's not like a QA specific talk. It's I would say it's the in that sweet spot where developers, the job of developers and QAs merge. And automation is everyone's responsibility. It's not just like QAs or developers. And as a developer, you should be serious about what you're developing. You should have the test-driven mindset, and that's when this left shifting helps a lot. So again, coming back to when we, test something, we have like manual test, functional test, and end-to-end test. We have like a multiverse of tests. The problem is they all almost test the same code flow, but of course, the context is different. But just for that, we end up using a lot of different frameworks or tools. And there are so many alien automation frameworks that we keep either using or developing, and different companies use different frameworks. Like it's not where you can master one and then take this experience and use it in a different company. Most of the times these tools are either low level, like the rest assured, which I'm going to talk about in future. And what happens because of this lot of different ways of automating, even within the same company, different teams will have different frameworks. So testing becomes a shadowy place where no one wants to visit eventually, right? Because some of the reasons is like there may be a relatively less emphasis on test design. No one really spends cycles on designing tests. We all meet and then design or architect our services or business, which we think bring business values. But test design is always like seen as not something which is unfortunately, this is like again not a generic statement, but majority of the times it happens that we don't end up designing a test. And this is very specific to like whatever alien automation frameworks that we all use, like where they're very specific to that service or context of the company or a team, and that can't be reused. And then, like I say, everybody invents their own, and they're very rigid and difficult to maintain also over a period of time. The entropy increases because tests, they like we don't really try to spend a lot of time, uh, like whenever there is a test fix, probably the developer mindset would be, okay, let me just put a plaster to it, I'll see when it breaks again. And towards the end, it sort of becomes really complex and deviates from the real end user interaction, because your tests, you keep taking those shortcuts or hacks because you are using code to automate, and it's very easy for a developer to sort of just make the test pass by doing some magic. We all know there's so many tools to do magic, like Power Marketer and stuff. And that sort of at some point the test really doesn't add any value apart from being a food chain for your development. And along with that, it becomes really very complex that um, you know it, although like it is supposed to guard your prod code, it becomes more complex on your prod code, such that you end up more time understanding those tests, and then we all know what happens next. So how do you want to solve the problem? So ironically, we invented one more framework to solve this. I would say this is a tool, uh, but this is what we wanted to do is invent a universal API automation tool so that it works across all teams, all companies, in all the contexts. But that is an ambitious thing to even start with. So to start with, we just thought like, what should that tool be like when we are thinking of developing. So what we see is it should balance between strictness and flexibility. With all these alien automation frameworks, you might think they're flexible for your context and need, but like we just discussed the problems with that. But if they're too strict, of course, you probably have a lot of resistance to even start using that tool. So it should strike that balance. That's the first important factor. And it should be low code, low cognitive complexity. Again, uh, writing code to test code is to an extent okay, But the more if we if we do that too much, right, the test code is also code that we kind of forget. And within code, we know we can do whatever we want. So the moment we reduce the number of lines of code and then do in a low code way, the chances that we take some shortcuts or hacks decreases, and it's also less in cognitive complexity. That's the second goal of this universal API automation tool we want to develop. And a very important thing is augment manual persona testing. It should be really close to how your end user uses. Again, whatever I'm presenting is not a replacement for unit tests. We are in this arena of end-to-end or functional or integration tests. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm being very specific because none of this replaces unit tests. Unit test has to be there if you are like really testing your unit of your function or whatever. So now that the answer for our how we want to have it in a universal way is probably most of the teams use a tool called Postman. If not Postman, some other tool which helps them to fire a request and check the response. I hope no one is doing it with curl these days. We all, of course, if you're doing with curl, I highly recommend you should check out UI-based tool like Postman, which really makes it lot easy. It's not just one-time thing. You can share your collection, and then it keeps your history as well, so that you always don't have to reinvent or rewrite your REST request. And of course, as you see, Salesforce is at the top, so that's an obvious choice. Like in our company, we use this tool a lot. I'm very sure like a lot of companies also use this tool. It's a very popular tool. And if you have not heard about it, you might slightly get disconnected in the talk, but it's okay. You can probably check out the tool and then find the recording back. So, and then of course you can reach out to me if you have any doubts. Now, using Postman, how do we want to? So Postman is mostly a JVM, a node tool, and they do have automation utilities like Newman and Postman CLI. But they don't have a solution for Java. As in, if I'm a Java developer, I want to use this Postman collection. When I say, so this is how a Postman tool looks like, where you have a set of collections and you can have your body uh, and postscript, prescript. Like I say, if you have not used it before, it might look slightly difficult to follow this. And this is not this talk. I'm not going to go into details of what is what in the Postman because that's little out of scope for this talk. But it's like I say, it's a tool to ease your automation. For example, I'll show you. This is a small API wherein it's a free API. You can hit this URL API-REST-dev, API.RESTful API.dev. And let's say if I fire this, it gives me some fake data, it gives me some information of all the phones. And the best part is I can even add a phone of my own. So I'm adding an AI phone that I just invented. So it did add this to the DB in the backend, and then it gave me an ID, and I can verify with that, like using that ID. Within Postman, you can of course write this in the JavaScript. As you get the response, you can set this response and the object ID within that. Again, I highly recommend to check this documentation if you are not aware. And I'm using this ID to fetch it back. And here you go, I got my AI phone. And so this is a very small API test. Imagine you are the developer of RESTful API. You own the service where you are probably maintaining the inventory of all the phones that your company sells or whatever. And you want to test this scenario wherein you want to add a phone and then check that it's coming up. What you would do, you would probably, as a developer, as you develop this RESTful API, you would have a Postman collection like this, and then you would fire like I just did, one after the other. And if you want to automate this, Postman, of course, like I said, gives Newman and other things, but initial way or basic way to do it is using this run button. You can run this collection, and it runs exactly what I just did, one after the other, and you can see all of them successful. And then and then we just think that our API is working as expected. But that is it. If I have to do the same thing through a JUnit test, I don't have a solution today. I'll show you how it looks like using this tool. Again, without going into details, I just want to give you a teaser of what this tool looks like. So in Postman, what you can do is you can export this collection into a JSON file. If you export, it lets you export or give you a location. And the JSON file looks like this. So the JSON file contains all the information that the collection has that you just saw. And you can add it to your resources in your JUnit. And you can use RevoMan to hit the API by passing it the collection, the Postman collection file where it's present, and also the environment path. Environment in Postman, of course, is here, the key value pairs. So this is like the I just started dummy environment with some current year and stuff. I'm just using that to add in the iPhone, AI phone. And like I said, I was also using some JavaScript within here. For example, I was using this Postman set and get and all that. So you can even have node modules created as in you can use this tool even supports node modules if you want to use some tools like Moment or Lodash or whatever. And all you got to do is supply that JS wherever it is present. And if I run this, just take the logs. This is how it looks like. This does exactly what I did in Postman. So what I just did is as a developer, I created a service, and then to manually test it, I created a Postman collection. And without doing any extra work, I was able to hook this Postman collection into my JUnit test. That's the core idea of this tool. And then this doesn't stop here. It does even more than this, which I'm going to go deep dive in further slides. Until here, Chaitanya, let me know if there are any questions I can take up. Otherwise, I can move forward.
At the moment, we don't have any questions, Gopal.
Cool. I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
So we just discussed Postman templates, and the idea is to use those templates to write our end-to-end tests, etc., so that we don't have to use a different tool for every context. So if you have depending on your context, you can prepare your collection for that particular use case or an end-to-end use case, and then you can hook it. That is what this tool is all about. Rev-Woman. So it's Rev-Woman. Again, that's a contrast to Postman. So we named it RevoMan. Rev is like that's part of a tool, but Rev up is also like accelerate. So it accelerates your API automation. And like I say, when we start, if someone has to invent a tool, it's important that you research outside and don't reinvent the same wheel. So as we look out, these are the two things, like two extreme tools. Of course, rest assured is one that people use often when it comes to API automation. And rest assured is more like a library which gives you a lot of utilities, like more like tools that you can use to build your own framework. It's not a framework on its own. Similarly, Postman, as we just discussed, a UI-based tool or a node-based tool that you can't use in your JVM. And that's where this stands right in the middle, taking nice things from both these tools and then giving you a very easy way to plug in your templates without doing a lot of work. But that does not mean, like I say, as I initially said, it does balance between that flexibility and strictness. It's not like you can't do anything more than what your Postman collection does, which I'm going to show you very shortly. So that's where in the UX. So now a user who uses this tool, how should the experience be? And how can he seamlessly convert his manual testing from Postman to RevoMan without any hassle or resistance and loss? Loss as in, okay, I'm able to do something in Postman, but this tool doesn't give me that parity or the same feature. So that is the main goal while like building or evolving this tool. So to start with, it should fit in the ecosystem, which is Java in our case. And then the programming language, of course, is Java or Kotlin. Any JVM tool can, this is like I say, it's just a Java library. You can add the jar in your favorite build tool and then use it. And the dev experience, it should be simple to understand without a lot of steep learning curve. The configurability, this is important, wherein it just doesn't, it gives you more options wherein you can plug your customization along with just running those collections. And CI/CD integrable, of course, you should be able to use it in your JUnit tests or wherever you test run, probably in CI or depending on your company and the context. And the reporting, it should report what went wrong. It's very important for tests that they give you back a very clear error message on where it went wrong and what went wrong. And yeah, it should be very detailed and transparent and ease of assertion. Like even if I want to add my own assertions on top of what the tool already does, I should be able to add them. And the version control. So as we are doing tinkering with templates, it's important that we should have them version. So these are all the factors we were thinking when we were thinking about user experience. And the UI, great that Postman already has a wonderful UI that is coming out of the box for free. It's a free tool, by the way. And then if you need more features, you ought to buy a license. But most of the times for us, a developer, you don't need a license in Postman. It's a free tool. And the modularity, how do you maintain your collection? Are they like, should we be like putting all your collection into one thing, or can we have modules of those depending on your use cases and functionality? And maintainability, again, test should be easy to maintain. There should be low code, which is one of the reasons that should be easy to maintain, and extensible. That's something, if you want to, as API evolves, your test should be extensible without a lot of hassle. So to start with how to use this API, I just shown you the test earlier, and this is the concept wherein all it got is this has a step called a method called RevUp, and that's the only method currently this library has, which you can call passing your Postman collection as I just demonstrated earlier. And in order to Postman pass it, you can use this builder pattern, and then you just call kit.configure, and that provides you with different methods wherein you can put your values like the template and all of that. So it does have some mandatory parameters and then some optional ones, which you can use to provide your configuration of the execution that you're about to do for Postman. And along with it, I'm going to tell you again some of the features, and then I'm going to show you the test which is using all of this that I just discussed. And this is an advanced use case wherein what else can you do apart from just running the Postman collection? So of course you can also plug in some dynamic environment. Dynamic environment, as in imagine you are running a test and you have some username password of the environment in which you are running, and that you might only know during your CI/CD execution or whatever. The many use cases where the username password is generated on the run while you create something. So you can plug that as well. So the environment doesn't have to be a static JSON file that I've shown earlier. You can dynamically inject using this configuration and dynamic environment. And there is custom dynamic variables as well you can inject. For example, in Postman, you can use variables like, let me take an example. Like this current year, random price, etc. And Postman itself provides some of the dynamic environments like random abbreviation, random, etc., etc. So if those don't fit, you can write your own custom dynamic environment variables also. I'll show you an example very shortly. And as I mentioned, you can use your favorite node modules that you can use in your JavaScript, like prescript and test script, that you can install and then just provide the path where your node modules are. And it provides you a lot of flexibility while executing. For example, you want to like fail fast whenever you have your first failure in the execution. You can set a halt on any failure. But let's say you want to not fail for some of the steps. Maybe you're testing your error scenarios, and even if there is a failure, you want to move on. You can pass on the steps steps that you want to ignore for failure, and you can skip some steps or you can run only steps. So you have the flexibility to sort of control your execution. On top of it, you can plug some code that gets executed before and after each step. For example, this is what I'm calling a step. This is a collection and these are steps. And before running the step, Postman already does provide pre-hooks and tests, but like I said, these are all written in JavaScript. But if you want to run some of your code, like your some utility which generates some ID that you want to hook in the subsequent step, this tool allows you to plug those customized hooks which run before and after each step. But you can write them in Java or Kotlin, whichever language you're using, the JVM. That's the beauty of it. So you're no more sort of restricted to writing JavaScripts, which are hard to debug also because you're using this in JVM environment. And of course, we are dealing to start with. Of course, this only supports REST APIs. And then JSON is like bread and butter of this tool. So there's so much of flexibility for you to marshal these JSON objects into strong types, such that you can write your pre-post hooks using that. Again, I'm going to show you a code very shortly. And then you can have, of course, because in the same lines where you can plug in some custom type adapters. If you are familiar with JSON or Jackson, maybe you understand these type adapters that, for example, not everything can be easily converted to JSON to Pojo. So you might have to provide some custom type adapters, especially if the class is owned by is not very easily convertible or the structure doesn't align with the class. And you can even like skip some types. So it has a very powerful JSON to Pojo type safety or marshalling and marshalling support, which I'm going to show you in the code. But one of the use cases, like best ways, you don't have to add any extra annotations on your Pojo. Let us say if you don't have control on your Pojo, it resides in some other module in which like you don't have the ownership. You don't really have to worry because this uses something called Moshi, which lets you serialize any Pojo by, by providing adapters without adding any extra annotations. And you can even ignore some legacy types, like the class you're trying to marshal or unmarshal might be extending some legacy type, which doesn't let you do it. You can skip those types as well using those, whatever I just shown you. And this is a high level execution of what happens within the step, within within the execution of the entire thing. I'm going to go back to the slide after quickly showing you some code example of a test which is using all these features. So this is a test which is hitting my Linux machine that's running somewhere else. Okay, it's on my Linux desktop, but sparing the details, this needs a specific org setup within Salesforce. Again, if you know Salesforce, you'll understand what is an org and all. But I'll give you a brief of what it is. For example, whatever we're testing is something called place quote. And it's very relatable, as in if you're placing a quote or order, imagine you're placing this on Amazon. And when you place an order, what Amazon does is they may not know. What I mean is what might happen. Again, making it very simple and relatable, they might add your order to the database. That's the first thing. And they probably call something called a pricing engine in order to get the discounts and everything, all the offers and all that information for that particular day, and give you the exact price of the product that you have. And then they're going to add tax. Again, in India, we have GST, and other countries, we have different taxing systems. This is the like what might happen in a very simplified manner. So whatever service I'm going to show you is also doing the same. But in order to do this, Amazon has to set up their storefront, right? They have to add all the products. They have to probably give a price to all the products, and there can be different type of products. There can be one-time products. There can be subscriptions that you have. So all of them are different there's different ways to set up your products. And of course tax. Like different countries will have different ways to tax. They have to set up um, and then even within same country there may be uh, different vendors might be using different tax engines. Again, Salesforce is in the business of providing this platform wherein you can set up your own storefront. Let's say you are selling something, you don't have to do all of this in the backend, but we will give you all the REST APIs for you to add your products and add your pricing engine, add your tax engine, and you can set up your products and all of that. So to do all of this, right, that takes a lot of setup. And I'm giving you an oversimplified example, which might have close to like 75 steps, wherein you have to set up your users, you have to set up your products, and then you use those products to create. And there again, within the once you create a quote or order, you might go about changing it. Again, this may be a relatable use case, can be you're talking to a interior company or something, and you keep bargaining. Okay, let me add that element. Give me this discount, etc. So they keep updating your quote and then getting better discounts and all of that. So there's so many use cases wherein we have to automate all of this. So it's not just that we develop the APIs and support it. We understand all those use cases and different ways a customer can fire the API. And then it has to be guarded, and we have to run all these use cases almost on a daily basis so that our behavior doesn't break due to some change. And we use this tool in order to guard an API like this. So this is whatever the test I'm showing you. This is part of the library itself. Of course, if you this is an open source tool, like I say, but although you may not be able to run this, like I say, it needs a special setup that you need. But I'm just going to use it for demonstration in this talk. But I can provide you like a different test, or you can write try with your own test, probably as in to get hands on or get your feet wet. There are other tests in the same repository, but for now, as we just discussed, it has all these methods as we discussed. For example, the dynamic environment, I'm injecting some dynamic environment again just for the sake of demonstration. Some XYZ key value pairs. It's just a hash map, by the way. And then custom dynamic variables. I wanted to set a different price for each product. So what I do is within my quote, as I add a product or something, I might have this variable. And whenever this variable is encountered, I'm indicating the tool that replace it with some random value which is under 1,000. Just for demonstration. So I get different prices of products with different prices. And this is a node module path. And within this, I can use something called moment. Here I'm using moment to create current date. This is again, you can use your favorite JavaScript library and just use require, and then kind of this is where my JS is also like I have to show excluded. Here are my known modules, so I'm indicating this is where it should be. And what I'm saying is here, coming back to execution controls, I'm setting up a rule that halt on failure of type except. So except this failure, if I have a if I have a HTTP failure, and then if the method, let's say here are my error scenarios, and I have a header called ignore HTTP status successful. It's think of it this way. I have stamped this step. Hey, even if this fails, even if the HTTP fails, ignore it for failure. And then I have told the tool that, hey, while you're executing, if you find there's a HTTP failure, at the same time, if you find a header like which says ignore HTTP status unsuccessful true, just ignore it and move ahead. That's what I mean. So that's how you can probably control more on your execution. And then you have here you have your request config, which is used to unmarshal your request. So what I'm saying is for every step which is ending with this URI path, so use this as the POJO, and then use this as the adapter. Adapter is like to say again, imagine this POJO is not in my control, and this POJO is not directly aligning with the adapter. So you can write advanced adapters. Let me show you how an adapter looks like. So this is how it looks like. Again, if you are familiar with JSON, it might be like you might be able to follow, but Moshi in itself is something which got inspired from JSON. If an Android developer, you might even know it even closer. It's an awesome library that should explore for serialization and deserialization. And this is the response config again to do the same on the response, where I'm saying for all these steps with ending with this URI path, use this output representation to sort of unmarshal. And this in this case, probably I don't need an adapter. And similarly, one more rule I just set, and you can write advanced adapters. Again, this tool also provides you with some utilities to write these adapters easily. I can't go into the details in this talk, but I would be happy to provide you with more details if you want to reach out after this talk. And here are the hooks, the best part of this tool, wherein now what I'm saying is before every step that ends with this path, run this code. So this code again just does nothing but logging that the sync step. And let's say if there is an asynchronous step, you can await in your post hook, wherein after every step ending with this URI, you can check if it's a sync step or async step. Again, you can do similar things like you can stamp it. For example, if sync is true for this step. So if it's true, I don't wait. If it's not, probably I'll just sleep my thread and wait for the results to come back. Again, this is just for demonstration, but I should not use the thread sleep. You can use your own favorite library like a utility or something to poll, etc. There may be polling that we want to implement as part of this tool natively, which might be coming very soon. And of course, this is like global custom adapter. So wherever I see ID, what I'm telling this tool that use this JSON adapter to unmarshal that to ID. So here is how it looks like. Again, as I mentioned, it's important that we have the transparency of what is happening. And I should run it in a debug mode. Let me also talk about something very important as let me use this test because it is fast. So after the end of the execution, you get something called rundown. And this is how a rundown looks like. So rundown is array of step reports, and each step report contains, here anyways. So here is where my rundown looks like. Okay, this has stopped here. Okay. This is what my rundown looks like, and these are my step reports. There are 3 steps, so I have 3 step reports. And each step report, if you zoom in, has all the information of what is in the request, what is in the response, what is the if there are any failures like post hook failure, etc. And within the response, of course, if you have done if you have set up any adapters, it will, instead of showing you plain JSON text that string, it will give you an actual POJO. Let me run the other test. You will see this in much more detail now that you understand what is this. I'm running this debug mode. So once it finishes, it will hit this line. I will then explain. Meanwhile, we can move ahead. And this is what all can happen. Like I said, this is the high level flow diagram of this entire execution. Like it starts with pre-request JS and then unmarshals the request into the type safe POJO that you have set up. And then there is a pre-hook, which you must have written in Java, which gets executed. And the HTTP request happens. And then the test JS gets executed and the response get unmarshaled into the type that you have set up. And there's a post hook, and across all these there can be failures, and this is like a hierarchy of failures that can happen, and they all are reported precisely without any loss of information. So you as a developer knows where it failed, what failed, and then just looking at the failure, you should be able to figure out what went wrong. So this is over. So with this, again, this a test, whatever I'm showing you is like, although it might look long, I intentionally kept all the code in one single function. You can even break this up into multiple pieces, and then, for example, this lambda can be broken up into its own function, and then you just need to defer it here. But what we just achieved, what I just mentioned, we achieved 74 steps in just less than 100 lines. That is the beauty of it. As in, imagine achieving the same using or writing code with all those utilities that you might be having to set up and use those variables in, I don't know, for your subsequent steps and all. It takes a lot of code, I would say. I mean, if you measure it, probably is like 89% lesser code that we have. But it shouldn't just be also looked at the number, looked at comparing the number of lines, because it's not actually uh, just the number of lines, right? There are a lot of low code and cognitive complexity is so much less. And let's say if you someone developer, different member want to understand what's going on in this test, he has to know few APIs that this tool offers, and then he can import this Postman collection right from the VCS, right, along with the code which resides in the code. These are the collections, and then he can try it out himself, which is very easy. It's a very transparent. You don't. There is no code in this, right? So lot of time saving and cognitive complexity has saved. So I just hit the debug point. Just check out how this rundown looks like. I have 74 steps now, which just finished, and this is how it looks like. You have all these steps, right? And let's probably check out one of the steps and how it looks like. And every step object has the index, the name of it, and everything, and the request info. So check this out. So this is coming as a POJO, like place code input representation that I just mentioned, instead of like a JSON string. So I can literally check this out in type-safe manner, which is very important when that's why that's one of the strong points of Java or Kotlin compared to dynamic languages like JavaScript. So you can debug and understand, and even if you see, I have written the hooks. So in one of the hooks, I'm validating the response. After I get a response from one of the steps, I can validate the response, but check out that I'm not using JSON node here, and then or using a map. Instead, I'm using a type safe object. So success is a it's as I do get, what I get is if I let me extract this into a variable. So if you check the type of this is place code output representation. This is on the response. So, and then I'm using that to validate a property on that, and then checking what is it. Like and traditional tools or other tools which doesn't have type safe support, you would have to use something like a hash map and then do get. So that's the awesome part of it, and of course, a lot of productivity. So we checked all these lists, everything that we just discussed, and it does even more. So your code, your collection, all of them reside with your code, which is an awesome thing. As in, you have just merged both the worlds. So the manual and automation, they stay together, so that always you will have an up-to-date collection. Your team doesn't have to run behind somebody. Hey, do we have an up-to-date collection? I want to test this feature. That's right there in your automation. So you don't have to maintain a separate collection, because they don't no more are they're tied together. So that's the best part of it. And there's so many awesome features coming. Like one of my favorite feature is being in the AI hype. I want to have a payload generation tool where you can specify with a prompt, and then it should understand the context and generate a payload for you. and of course the metrics, analytics, and all of them are coming. So we're not thinking it just like a replacement for Postman, but a tool which uses Postman templates as a start. Again, a template is a template, just having a structure, a shared structure. And because it's Postman template, you can use it with the UI tool as well. But this tool should not be limited to just Postman templates. Let's say you have your own custom templates for a different way that you're manually testing or probably monitoring or whatever. You should be able to export the template, and then we have plans to support other templates probably by writing a converter or adapter sort of, and then you should be able to use this tool. So, and as I mentioned, this is open source, and you can find all of this code, and I'll be giving you the code link that you can check out. But if you're an enthusiast and you want to contribute, as in you have ideas and you don't have to wait for the team to implement, we are super open for contributions, and you can join this Slack channel as well. As you can take a screenshot, or it's a very easy URL to understand. There's a public Slack channel that if you are interested to contribute or collaborate or consume, you will get one-to-one support if you're a consumer, or if you're a contributor, you will get a one-to-one mentorship as in way to start. There's so many beginner level PRs or issues that are present in this repository. And then you will get and it's all written in Kotlin. If you are a Kotlin fan, this is like you would enjoy looking at the code. It's also written with a lot of functional programming niceties and stuff. So it's fun to work on this tool. And this is where you can find all these resources. You can again take a screenshot, or probably you can find this in the recording. And the Git repo, as I mentioned, is here. You can try out. It's present in Maven Central. So if you are using Gradle or Maven or whatever, just pull this library, try out. You can even clone this repository. It's a very small repository, and then it's built with Gradle, so you can build it natively. You don't need to install anything. And you can try out some of the unit tests and integration tests that are part of this repository as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gopal. Wonderful talk.
Thank you.
Until now, we don't have questions, but I do have some questions. Can I ask them?
Please. Yes.
So you mostly, while you're giving the talk, you mostly concentrated on Postman collections. Do you also want to support the other? Is there any other support for other clients like Insomnia or IntelliJ also is giving
The HTTP
its own client, right?
IntelliJ.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, this is more like a starter. But this is the idea. Like if you are a consumer and I have not found a use case to use other templates, but if you want to use Insomnia or the HTTP format that IntelliJ gives, definitely I think we can collaborate. There are ways to convert this to as in within the tool to a Postman collection, or we can, if the other template has more better ways to sort of better, what you call, like Postman has this structure where it captures everything. Maybe if the other template is better, we can have a different execution format completely as a different module that we can release. So yes, like I said, this is a start, but if you want to use, let's talk, and then we can build it together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Um, One more question for me is like in the Postman collections, there is some JavaScript code as well, and when we are importing it, we are executing it with our post Kotlin code. How this compilation is happening? How this JavaScript is being compiled to Kotlin language?
Yeah, great question. So I'm using a tool called GraalJS, which is again very recent and cutting edge. That executes JavaScript as native JVM on the JVM. So that's being used to convert this as an execute this JavaScript code, wherein you can inject. It's like I can quickly show you that now that you have asked. There is this within the code. I can show you where it is happening, so you can go and then check out. Here you go. So execute, and
Are you sharing your
there is
screen?
this. Oh yeah, sorry. Let me share. So again, if you
Yeah.
want to have a debug point and check out, this is exact place where the JavaScript gets evaluated. And into the JavaScript, for example, Postman has objects like PM. You can say pm.environment.set, right? And that PM object in this repository is represented by this Java or Kotlin Pojo. So this is the best part wherein I can inject. So there's a place where I inject this. Let me find it out. PM. Yep. So what I say is, again, this is all probably may not make sense immediately, but if you probably have a debug point and check the sequence of execution, it makes more sense. But what I say is, I'm injecting this member like wherever PM is referred. I'm telling this Graal thing to pass that to my Pojo. So, for example, in this Postman SDK, you would see all these variables, info, replacement, everything that you would see in your Postman test script. For example, this is where you can find Postman test script reference. pm.variables.get, pm.variables.set. You would find all the methods written in this Pojo. It has like, I wouldn't say it's exhaustive support, but it's enough. And then we can keep adding, like if you're a consumer, you have something else, you can probably just write a method here, raise a PR, and then you can merge and you can use it. Like these are very basic methods. There's nothing advanced in this. But the best part is like the request object, the response object, everything, even .json is supported. Like where in Postman you would use there is a pm.request.json. Let me check this one. The test. So pm.response.json. When this method is called, as in during this execution in the tool, that gets routed to this method in the tool, wherein we use this same JSON.parse and then I execute this. So this is also like performance-wise, I've not seen any like performance issues with this, and this can work with ECMAScript 6 or even higher than that. So that is the funda. That's how we're able to. This is like one of the I would say the magic that happens in the tool. Something like a black box wherein you can execute JavaScript on your Java. I think there are some tools as well, like Nashcon, etc., which are a little old. This Graal is super new, which is like exciting to use this. I even have thoughts to use Kotlin multi-platform. I was not able to successfully use it, but of course, I would love to explore. I have that in the to-do list. Kotlin itself is giving it an out of the box, so yeah, I think we
Yeah.
should.
Kotlin multi-platform is like there are a lot of things going on, but nothing is documented properly.
That's the
I
problem.
too,
Yes.
yeah, I too find difficulty if I want to build a Kotlin JS
It's a
project.
very steep learning curve. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
did try for a couple of days. I scratched my head. I could not, like, then I just left it there. I'll see when God gets mature.
yeah. And one last question for me, like, what are Kaizu templates? In your last slide, you mentioned them.
Oh, I think, okay. That's specific to Salesforce. We have something called Kaiju, where we use Kaiju for monitoring. So, but the part is it's a template which is very similar to Postman. I think this slide is supposed to be swapped with this where it's not there. But anyways, that's the part. That's where, as I was saying, This is very extensible. Even if you have a custom tool that you're using in your company, which is not Postman but some other way, as long as you can share it or export it in a format that the tool understands, we can probably work with
Okay.
the tool.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Um, yeah. Thank you, Gopal, for giving us this talk and session.
Yep.
Mm, Dear visitors, if you want to follow us for the next topics, we have some things are coming up in the future as well. You can visit our meetup page, and even if you want to contribute to our community, you are feel free to join via our GitHub link. Those all are I left those links in the description and then in the comment box as well. Please feel free to check them out. Thank you for joining us. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.